gentlemen, how to prevent commoditization of OAH buying. That is the topic right now. Our moderator for the session is an angel investor and business strategist. Over the course of his career, he has served as the marketing head for HP's Asia business, president and CMO of Tata Teleservices, country head for Motorola, EVP and category director for PepsiCo India and South Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Lloyd Mathias. Welcome, sir. Wonderful to have you here. In an illustrious career spanning 2 decades, our first panelist has been instrumental in driving the success of renowned brands such as Yahoo, OLX, Car Dekho, and Zoopy, establishing them as industry powerhouses. Please put your hands together for Mr. Gaurav Mehta, Chief Marketing Officer, Noise. Make some noise, come on. You know he's used to. Our next panelist has won several accolades for his initiatives and contributions and is a lifetime member of All India Management Association, Noida Management Association, Delhi Advertising Club and the Advertising Club Mumbai. He joined Laqshya Media in 2002 as regional manager and rose to the position of COO in 2011, finally CEO in a span of just 12 years. Ladies and gentlemen, CEO Laqshya Media Group, Mr. Atul Shrivastava. Joining us on stage right now, an industry pioneer, our final panelist has been leading the charge of the OAH revolution in India, a globetrotter and a Sufi yoga teacher. He brings yogic principles and a global perspective to the world of OOH. Ladies and gentlemen, Managing Director, RoshanSpace. Welcome on the stage, Mr. Junaid Shaikh. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for the panel discussion. Handing over to our moderator to take the session forward, Mr. Mathias.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And, being the last session between, a very productive day and the awards is a little tough. But we'll try to keep this engaging. Primarily because I think the topic is relevant to almost everyone in the audience, which is how to prevent the OH from being very commoditized. And I couldn't think of a better panel in the context of the fact that we've got all the three vectors of the industry represented here. So Gaurav is CMO of Noise. He's been with some iconic brands in the past, digital era brands. And clearly he will be the voice of the client in this entire crowded media space where digital is growing fast, television and OTT is still significant, print of course has its challenges, print is there's radio, there's cinema, and there's out of home. So, Gaurav will share his perspective from his current organization as well as his past on the client perspective or out of home. To the far right, we've got Junaid.
Good evening.
Clearly the rock star amidst us because he's got a big fan following and all the interesting things he does. But among other things, Junaid is the founder and the MD of RoshanSpace. So he's the media owner. He's the guy who actually gets those huge sites, manages the environment, manages the local corporations and all the other regulatory hurdles. So we'll love to get your perspective in this whole discussion, Junaid. Welcome to the panel.
I think this is the first time I'm on stage in this kind of gathering, and I consider myself privileged to be sitting with the stalwarts. My understanding of...
Before you get there, I want to introduce Atul, and then
sure.
we'll get rolling. And then, of course, Atul Shrivastava, you heard his introduction. He's Group CEO of Laqshya Media. So they, in a sense, are the intermediaries. They kind of bridge the clients with the media owners. They have a media agency. They, of course, have their own sites on long term. And, so we'll kind of, just tee this off. And before I, get it across to you, Junaid, just a quick point. I think one is to understand what do we mean by the commoditization of out-of-home media. Right. And I think essentially, when you talk of commoditization, I speak from my past, and I've spoken to a few CMOs. I think the recognition is that the CMO's job, in a sense, has widened now. In a sense, in this digital world, it's not just pure marketing. They look at product, they look at pricing, they look at digital, they look at CX. And in marketing, therefore, media buying is important. But within that, obviously, the big spends end up with digital, with television. So in the context of the fact that out of home is pretty much a small component, does the CMO have enough time to focus? And if he does not, then does it get relegated to a commoditized buying decision? That someone junior in the marketing organization or someone in the media agency says, hey, okay, this is the campaign, now we need to boost it to the little outdoor, so we'll do a small bit of bus shelters, hoardings, billboards, poll kiosks, the works. So what kind of mind space does it occupy? And when we say commoditization, we're talking about the fact that over time, a lot of the sites have kind of got reduced to a kind of lowest common denominator, right? So there are a few iconic sites, but do we have a Times Square equivalent in India, right? Very often, no, right? Some of us in Mumbai in the 90s remember the Patel Bridge. But the reduction of so-called iconic sites, the fact that it's become very commoditized and a mass buying, I think that's the core of the issue. The other point, of course, which we want to debate on this is also the fact that some part of the commoditization or some part of the fact that CMOs don't give enough time is that this is not very easily measurable, right? There are common currencies that the world of television have given us in terms of TRPs. The world of print talks of the IRS, the NRS. Digital has the ComScore. So everyone has a very hard measure. The common currency in out-of-home is yet to evolve. I know there's lots of work happening, and I know many of you are closely involved. So I think given these two factors, we'll kick it off with you, Junaid. As a media owner, someone who gets the sites, what are the challenges that you see when you meet with the agencies and the clients? And love to get your perspective on that.
So, as a progressive company who's always trying to put himself on a marketer's side, and we always try to think what is the best that we can offer, and we've done that. I think the challenges we face is to hold hands together with the media agencies to represent the specialities that we offer, because we create it, we know it best, we know our products. Just like a marketer, if you put yourself in a marketer's shoes, they know their product really well, so do we. So if we create it, we've found it, we've planned it over a year. I mean, I'm talking about these new age media. We've planned it for a year. There's been a lot of thought. Design has taken to center stage. That has to be communicated further as partners to the brand. And this is the problem that we face, to have a open discussion, a direct contact, a direct communication with the marketeers.
So effectively saying you don't get enough face time with the eventual decision maker like you.
Yes.
Okay, valid point. Great. Thanks for sharing that, and we'll circle back. So Gaurav, just coming across to you, and what is your sense as a CMO? Where do you see out of home in your entire media mix, in your entire campaign strategy? And what are the things that you see as challenges?
Thanks, Lloyd. I think first of all, I'm really happy to be in this venue. I'm a lot of marketing discussions happen in five-star hotels, but I think this is the best venue I've ever been.
The high ceilings.
Yeah, so great job.
Well done, Team VJ Media.
Yeah. So before I answer that question, maybe I'll just give a little bit of a perspective on how decision making happens, because that'll help me explain. How outdoor is perceived or as part of the media plan. I've been part of the digital for the past 15 years, past 11 as a CXO in different companies. We all hear about big VC rounds coming in 100 million, 200 million, 300 million in various B2C companies. And a large part of that fundraise always comes to the marketer, So if you're raising like say $100 million, I'm like, almost imagine that 50 to 70% of this will come to the marketer. And because of that, there's an inordinate amount of pressure, focus on whatever, even the smallest thing that a marketer does. From the board, CFO, CEO, and down to, the ranks and files of the organization, everybody looks at that person to deliver the highest hits. And as you mentioned, Lloyd, it's just not about like comms. You look at the digital product, you look at the consumer experience, you look at CRM, you look at analytics. So you have to, it's an extremely horizontal P&L role. When all those kind of like, expectation shifts have happened in the past 10 odd years, you also want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. And a large part of the decision making comes or hinges on two big factors. The first factor is which medium will help me get the biggest hits. Which is that one, which are those couple of initiatives that if I were to invest my money in, I'm gonna get like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 X ROAS or ROI on my investment. And the second thing is measurability. So maybe if it's not giving me 7X or 6X on my investment, at least I can measure it and understand what exactly is it doing. Unfortunately, the other mediums kind of like have done a better job of proving these two things. And so when it comes to like, for me to sign off like a multimedia RO, I'll always index my cost and my bandwidth, my mental bandwidth, which is the harder thing to actually optimize for, on those things which are either measurable or are going to give me a promised ROAS. And unfortunately, what starts to happen is, because as you rightly said, Comscore for digital, and Bark and TAM, erstwhile TAM for TV and so on, so RAM for radio, you don't know how to measure outdoor. And maybe some progressive marketers will make their own models to measure the impact of outdoor. And then they're a little bit more convinced once they see results. And maybe that's what happened to me in my previous stint, previous stint. Where we invested money on outdoor, and we got like 12% of our users coming through outdoor. We had an econometric model that we made. That kind of thing got us convinced that we can keep on investing in outdoors. But then not everybody has the money or the necessary support also from a data science perspective to make those models. So it puts a lot of focus or responsibility on the marketers' shoulders to actually prove that this investment works. So maybe, because of that, it almost becomes like the 70th or the 80th line item on that Excel sheet, and that starts to get commoditized. Ki theek hai, ye main dekh raha hu, upar wali 5 cheezein, baki sab tum log dekh lo. And if I don't set the narrative, my team or the media partners or even the publishers, they also don't get that mandate from me. So it's a vicious circle, but it stems from the fact that like the bandwidth is getting super crunched because of the reasons that I spoke about.
Sure, great, Gaurav. Thanks for laying that out so clearly and clearly stating the challenges. So Atul, you've heard a bit of the marketer's perspective. You've clearly, the media owners inside out. You interact with them on a daily basis. What do you see as the big challenge within the out-of-home space? If you're just looking at this whole aspect of commoditization, what would you like to see that would work better? Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So, first of all, let me thank the organizer to select this topic, which is very, very contemporary and one of the biggest challenge. As an agency, what we felt, yes, measurability has been the biggest challenge. Why? Because almost every brand manager has been facing challenge. How to justify the ROI? Where is the measurement? So is the case with the mainline agencies. When they propose a media plan to their client, they are not able to give any solution related to OAC media. What kind of ROIs can be delivered? So they shy away from that. So that is one major issue which, as an agency, we have been facing, and we have been trying to resolve it at industry forum level. Quite a few agencies have actually achieved creating, developing some measurement tool, but there is no standard industry currency. So that is one major challenge. So because of which we are not getting those regular kind of spends. There are clients who realize the potential of OH media. They take OH media as very seriously, and they take sites on long-term basis. For example, Apple is one case study. They give full seriousness. They talk long-term. They evaluate the quality of the media. They really want to achieve some purpose. Whereas in most of the cases, what we have seen is it is a tactical or a launch. OH is used only when there is a tactical requirement or there is any launch. So it has not get its desired share. And industry needs to do that. First of all, common currency is very, very vital, for which the IOAA is already working. And in the absence of any common currency or any ROI measurement, rate becomes the only differentiating factor, which is not fair. Yeah.
So, yeah, I know Junaid wants to react, but excellent point. And, if I look back early in my career, there was a time that, for big campaigns, we, I see Numi here in the audience, we actually sat with media owners and, negotiated the best sites and actually worked on an annualized plan, if not more, saying that these are my peak months, big months for the soft drink is April, May, June, and so on and so forth. Sorry, Junaid, you were about to come in with the point.
So I just want to give a different perspective to commoditization. If we look at the past and the present times, because I was born in 1978 when there was only one channel, okay, weekly. If we look at commoditization, when does commoditization happen? When the market reaches saturation. When there is saturation and everything starts to look the same. And then when there are a lot of offerings in the market, and the market is flooded with products which have no differentiation. Whereas out of home, if you see, out of home has always been a larger than life medium, right? It has been, the reason why flooding has happened is because this is the new age. Everybody's moved into digital. People have gone into digital. They have received digital without really having a real understanding of it. So the commoditization has happened, and people are focusing more on the features these days. People are. So once features come into play, everything's just, there's many choices. And when there's many choices, everything starts to look. So the uniqueness is not there, and the uniqueness is what needs to be created. And that's what out of home brought. I mean, out of home is a closure to a campaign. It's a beautiful closure. Even though earlier there's not been metrics, on a road where there's maybe 50% of male traffic, you see a jewelry brand over there. Why is it there? It's there because it gets recognition from that. It's a closure to it. And that's the perspective I want to bring from an out-of-home perspective.
So I hear you loud and clear, and I think great perspective, Junaid. Thanks for that. But just to kind of counter you to some extent, it isn't that other media aren't cluttered, right? I mean, everyone in this audience who's in India knows that we've got close to 800, 900 television stations, right? And some media planner somewhere has to make a choice, aside from the algorithms that he uses, on why do you want to get into a particular genre, and within that, what kind of programming, what kind of time slots. Again, in digital, you've got zillions of sites. Of course, there are two big daddies that sit on a large chunk of the digital space, that notwithstanding. And similarly in newspapers, languages, regions, cultures, and so on and so forth. But somewhere in this entire game, out of home seems to have lost some of its mojo, right? So, like I said, I belong to your era, but back in Mumbai, the Patel Bridge was a celebrated site and so on and so forth, right? We still had those iconic sites. So have you seen a diminishing of the quality of maybe out of home, or is it that agencies are not positioning these well enough? For example, should agencies be hand-holding clients saying, hey, this could be a great outdoor strategy that is more strategic and not tactical. So it's not about buying 20 billboards 1 week before your launch, but it's about planning your entire annual campaign and saying these are the months when this is what I can do best with out of home.
To give you a media owner's perspective, I think this is the onus of a media owner, not so much of the agency. I think we have to create the differentiator. We have to basically, we've done that. I mean, we've created 3 assets. We've created Bandra Focal, which is the largest billboard of Asia. I mean, you can't consider that as a commodity. And we've actually created brands out of billboards. So today, nobody tells us that give us a Bandra billboard. They ask for a Bandra Focal. And we've done that. We've clustered. We've done the same thing in Mahalakshmi. We've created a set of 7 billboards called Edge 7. So design has taken the center stage. Functionality has taken center stage. Utility has taken center stage. Earlier, there were about 20 billboards over there. I mean, lying for almost 20 years. We've completely changed the entire experience on that road. And the same thing we've done with our, digital network called Prodigy. We've bundled it. We've created a sequence of 20 billboards on the Western Express Highway. Now, that completely is a differentiator. You can see the uniqueness of it. You can see what it can deliver. And it is our duty to make sure that the client has the information, enough information and ideation to represent the brand, to present the brand on it. So we're offering a stage. I think that differentiation has to reach the right marketeer.
Okay, so what I hear you say is that maybe you need to get more face time with clients, so that differentiation needs to be articulated and explained better. And therefore, I'll take it to you, Gaurav. What do you see are the 1 or 2 critical changes that will make you think more strategically about outdoor and use its power far more effectively? Right, and as a digital era marketer, you recognize more than anything else that outdoor has got the power larger than life, as he rightly put it. 2 is also in this social media age when everything is shared, people taking pictures and sharing it. The amplification of outdoor can be immense, and I think Jayan's just left, but Amul's is a great example. Every one of Amul's billboards gets amplified on social media, gets talked about, is on every WhatsApp group. So do you think there's a trick or 2 that you'd like to see coming forth from the industry, from both media owners and the agency, that would make you use out-of-home far more effectively?
Sure. And while I'm a digital era marketer, but then maybe I'll just start the conversation with this guy, Marshall McLuhan, who was one of the earliest communication theorists. And I think one of the things that he said in the early 20th century, which still sticks in my mind whenever I'm looking at mediums and trying to put my theory on to how to understand the medium a little bit differently, was that medium is the message. You might have a certain advertisement appearing on a digital banner, on a social media creative, on TV, on outdoor, on print. People perceive it differently, basis the medium on which it's appearing. And when I was the CMO at OLX, we had done a very interesting thing. We wanted to accelerate our Bangalore market. And at that time, the whole outdoor, I won't say ban, but then outdoors are fairly substantial in Bangalore in those days. We made up our users' faces come to life on outdoors in and around their working spaces or their residential area. And the fact, what you just said, people are sharing today, but even in 10, 11 years back, people just started sharing those things extremely robustly. And we didn't have any local campaign, from TV or radio. This was the only thing that we were doing. And believe me, our numbers grew by 30%, and wasn't just a peaky thing. We got a base uplift. Just because of that, a very tactical understanding of the medium. But that particular campaign did wonders for us. Again, at OLX, we were trying to seed this category, and we wanted to make people understand in Bombay, that the small houses that people live in Bombay, I'm like, there's so much that we as Indians like keep in our houses. I'm like, why are you like clogging up this really expensive piece of real estate? And we try to story tell that through this really big asset on Juhu Chowpatty. And again, I'm like, we saw our numbers again shift up and then stay there. So I think when you really understand, I'm like, what is that medium all about? I'm like, when people see themselves on like a big asset like a hoarding versus say a digital banner, a testimonial campaign, or if you're like, trying to make people understand by making their bedroom come to life on a hoarding on Juhu Chowpatty versus say a digital gamified banner, the way people react to that is very, very different. So I'm like, the first thing that I would like actually, I'm like do consciously and maybe ask the industry also to do is, what is that one thing that outdoor does better than anyone else? How can you actually set a narrative that if you have to achieve this, this is the only medium that can do this for you? Again, at Car Dekho, we were just trying to do a very hyper-local campaign. You can always do a hyper-local campaign through digital mediums, and they, I'm like on a pin code level targeting, right? So I'm like, the targeting parameters are there, but then the larger than life never kicks in. So how do you like really have a narrative where only outdoor pings in my mind when there's a problem which is about solving that particular narrative? Right now, because of what Junaid was also talking about, like, the industry, the publishers have to come and like, engage with the marketers. Marketers have to set aside bandwidth to understand this medium better. But then at the end of this, is pure manthan ka matlab meko ye niklega ki if I can actually ascribe outdoor does this better than anything else, right? It should not be measured on, say, targeting, or it should not be measured on CPRPs and so on and so forth, which maybe some other mediums do better. But today, if you were to ask me, am I intelligent enough to know what is that one thing that outdoor really shines on? Maybe I don't have a very data-defined narrative on that one. But if that were to come to place, then we are talking. Then you've got like mindshare on a proactive basis. And I think that's maybe the one thing that I'll share that could be done by the people sitting in this room and outside also for this medium to grow faster.
Great, and just kind of probe you for a second more, and a thing that I figured as well was that a lot of time with your creative agency goes around crafting this cool, sexy 30-second TV commercial. And then the agency has a separate set of great writers who can do great print advertising, that front page in the Times of India or Hindustan Times. So do we have enough creative emphasis on how to exploit the innovative power of out of home? And to my mind, that's a big opportunity, right? The few campaigns that get talked about worldwide are those, absolutely, and not all of them are big on costs. Very often they're just about some smart ideas. So do you think there's something in it, something within that for marketers to think more deeply?
No, absolutely. I think I'm like, a perspective Lloyd. I'm like, because if I were to just like, just over the past 10, 12 years, if I were to just look at each and every pitch that has been made to me by an agency, or maybe an idea presentation by my incumbent AORs, outdoor always comes in the last few slides, and it's a direct translation of the key visual or the digital banners that they would have made. For me, it's just looking bigger, and that's about it. I mean, like, there's, and while you're right, I'm like, maybe 80% of the time will go on like, TV ka script kya hai? I'm like, what's our digital strategy? What's our social strategy? Outdoor will come on the 60th slide as a literal translation of the key visual that they have kind of like come up with, or the digital banner, big logo, and so on and so forth. And again, a lot of these discussions are not just about like, very intellectual discussions. What I'm trying to say is, a lot of things that are stopping outdoor becoming bigger is not because any intellectual discourse not being there. It is just the bandwidth. After 2 hours of sitting through that idea presentation, you're on the 60th slide. There's very little mental energy that is left to discuss that further from all the stakeholders. And you're like, हाँ ठीक लग रहा है, चलो, let's go ahead and do it. And that's where the problem comes in.
Absolutely fair. So I think all the focus is now down to you, Atul, because the set of fairly valid questions, and there's some soul searching that marketers and businesses need to do. And I think what media owners are clearly saying is that A, they'd like their assets to be better represented in front of eventual decision makers. Get the story behind it. I mean, this is a lot of effort that you've taken to build that stuff. Yeah. So what do you think should media agencies like yours do?
No, to answer that, first I'll tell the major advantage which OAC media offers is the impact. No other medium, whether it is television or print or digital, they cannot create that larger than life impact. So impact ke liye you definitely need OAC media, and it works very well for most of the brands, whichever has, I have rarely seen any campaign failing or the client saying ki arey yaar maja nahi aaya. It's not that. Whenever there is any OH campaign, client is always very positive, and I have seen clients increasing their budgets on OH. After doing a small campaign, they will spend more money in the next campaign, after that furthermore, and that is how gradually a trend is emerging where long-term campaigns are going to be seen in the market. It's already there. We are dealing with quite a few, more than almost 70, 80 plus clients as AOR. So I have seen at least 5, 6 clients are currently talking about taking long-term sites. And it is because the benefit they are getting from this OH media. The need of the hour, or rather it has always been the biggest challenge with OH media, is the data. So data, creativity and innovation, this is the core for the solution of this, because data is not there. To the extent that in our industry mein, abhi bhi there is a belief that it is a 4,000 crore industry. Data nahi hai apni industry ka hi. In this hall itself, there are at least 4, 5 companies which are doing more than 500 crore turnover, almost 500 crore turnover in OH alone. So that itself is 2,000 or 2,500 crore. The rest of India or itni sari jo baki agencies hai, are they still doing just 1,500 crore? No, it is not realistic. जब हमें हमारी industry का data ही नहीं पता है, so when I put up a hoarding, Junaid bhai या some other media owner puts up a hoarding and says, contact for this space, contact for this site, for advertisement. This is not, if I start writing there, 1 lakh vehicles, out of which at least we expect 4 lakh people traveling on this particular stretch, out of which at least 25,000 people are carrying Apple mobile handset. So you can define the TG, and this kind of data is available. This data is very easily available, and quite a few agencies are buying it. The moment hoarding talks about 1 lakh vehicles, 5 lakh potential audiences, and 25,000 or maybe 1 lakh people carrying Apple iPhone or any other thing, premium mobile handset. Automatically TG gets defined. But हमने वो कभी करा ही नहीं. We never did that. We just put up space on rent. Want to see your advertisement here. So that is data. Then creativity. In the industry, creativity has always been missing. You do a different format of like they have done, what they have done on in Mumbai, largest site in Asia. अपने आप में एक बहुत creative चीज़ है. We had done in Hyderabad airport, TSDD, उसको triple-sided double-decker. It is a case study. So many people have tried to copy it. That was an innovation almost in 2008 or 9. We did that. It is just an example of creativity on the format. But creativity in terms of preparing the plan also, assuring the client कि boss तुम्हारा पैसा waste नहीं होने वाला है, you will get decent ROI. That is also creativity. And innovation, of course. Now everybody is talking. Every agency, every media owner, every client is now doing innovations in OH. And definitely technology is contributing to a great extent for doing these innovations.
So great, Atul. You talked about the importance of data and metrics. You've talked about better creativity, and more innovation. And clearly, I think the other point is really about making out-of-home far more strategic in the approach to the client, and possibly getting maybe agency owners to represent their case in specific instances where it could be worthwhile. So Junaid, what is your kind of wish list if you want the industry to take off, right? And get its rightful place in a media plan and its growth trajectory. What is your wish list?
I'd like to pick up the thread from where he left off. I mean, coming from a new age marketeer, where he says he comes from a digital background, and measurement is key. He's trained to think that way. So, of course, measurement is a given. I don't think that we are denying that measurement, but then, I mean, measurement has various different parameters. We need a qualitative measurement. We need a quantitative measurement. We need measurement which can tell a marketeer that at this point in time, at this time of the day, this time of the evening, or this time of the night, this is the kind of traffic that's flowing, and there's a demographic, data as well. That is given. But besides that, there is what out-of-home, which you wanted to ask, what out-of-home delivers. Out-of-home delivers an opportunity to engage on a very large scale. And it's also giving you a really authentic engagement, an authentic representation of the brand. Because if you compare it to digital, there are so many, at this moment you're also, that there's so many fake, data out there. Out of home is verified. It can be used for various different contextual advertising. It can be used for, so many different theme-based communication. So, I mean, of course, data, we know we're at a nascent stage in India, and it's going to get there. It is going to get there. I don't think that can be stopped. But on the other hand, if we see brands like Apple, they've been using out of home for so long. They've been benefiting. They've been using it creatively. They used the shot of iPhone for 3 years. They played only one particular campaign, and that's the relevance. The power of out of home is still to be realized. I agree with you. It's the power of to understand the fundamental power of it is through its creativity and its uniqueness. So, I mean, for the media owners, I think to create that uniqueness through design, through creating utilities, making being very clear of the functionality, understanding yourself, what is the reason behind creating this, why is it here, who is it catering to, just like how marketers create brand strategies. Each of these assets are brands for media owners, and there has to be work towards it. We're very good at finding spaces. We're very good at listening. We're very good at piercing through things and finding a space to create the asset. But beyond that, what happens? I mean, that's what we need to self-reflect. How do I bring this stage to the best of its ability? And how then the advertiser or marketer, who is it benefiting? How far can it go in terms of engagement? What is the technology I can bring in? Technology like DOH is coming in. I think DOH is coming in at the right time. But if it's not utilized in the right way, it's going to fast forward the possibilities of it becoming more commoditized. Because now what you're inviting much more brands to come in. So you're making it more affordable. But with that, we also need to know, the most important thing is how to use it. Just putting up a screen on the same media, just changing it from a tin board to a screen is going to further commoditize it. It's not adding value to it. So adding value to the medium is important, and that value is seen in the top brands that know how to use it. Secondly, when you mentioned that this out of home is on the 70th slide, maybe you're not talking to the right people. Maybe you need an internal specialist who knows out of home better, who knows formats. We have innovated in formats. That's the first innovation we did, was we innovated in formats. We've given you that space. We've given you that differentiator in terms of functionality of it. But do you recognize it? Do your people recognize it? Is TV, spending on TV because there's big bucks involved? Maybe that's where the P&L of your marketing agency lies. So is out of home understood by them? That is the question. We need those specialists. We need a council. Maybe you need brands like you can leverage this medium a lot more at a much better cost than print.
So great point. So Junaid, well said. And yeah, Gaurav, you want to respond to something?
No, absolutely. I think I'm and I'll give an example of how, when your bandwidth actually gets focused onto this, then you create magic. And which is where the 70th slide could be like the 10th slide or the 5th slide. Measurement, and again, maybe I'm just talking from a digital company's perspective, because that's where I've spent my career in, the digital first companies. And which is why I shared the life stage of a company is where you have to really move fast. And not just move fast on some flimsy matrix. These are top lines and bottom lines that you're talking about, which is where you're very, very conscious of the inputs and outputs. So I'll share an example from 2013, 2014. This is when we started off OLX in India. And we had done a couple of campaigns, and we were doing multimedia, print, TV, outdoor, everywhere, and so on and so forth. And I just wanted a little bit better understanding of what input is getting me, what output. So in 2013, I started doing media mix modeling on all my investments. So which meant that at the end of my media mix models, I used to understand that this particular medium is driving so much and so on and so forth. So I won't tell the result, maybe I'll just tell what happened and then I'll tell the result. And which is where, the Bangalore thing happened. So we were in a dogfight, with Quicker. At that time, it was a C2C marketplace. C2C marketplaces are extremely monopolistic. So till the time you don't get a 70-80% market share, you can't monetize well. So we had to go 5-6x of them before we could monetize. And I remember one day, my boss and I'm we're going to office. He stays in Vasant Vihar, I stay in Gurgaon. And both of us, as soon as we came out of our houses, on the way to office, we only saw Quicker hoardings all over the place. He on his route to office and I on my route to office. And then he come to office and yeah, did you see all the Quicker around? Yeah, absolutely. Will we do anything about it? We won't, right? Because my media mix model was telling me that outdoor didn't contribute to my business matrix in Delhi NCR at all. It just did not. And during that year, Quicker was the largest outdoor buyer in the market in NCR. Category withstanding, right? But my media mix model was also telling me that in Bombay and Bangalore, it serves my business numbers beautifully. And which is where my bandwidth was going, which is where my briefs were going to the agencies, that I want to create some magic on outdoor in these two cities. And which is where I spoke about the Bangalore example, and that is just one of the examples. We did many things in Bangalore. And so is the case in Bombay. But in Delhi, I always used to experiment, didn't see the results, come back. So I was actually taking my focus to where this medium was really working for me. Why it was working? Maybe the assets in Bombay are much better. Maybe in Bangalore at that time, there was something about that, maybe more time on the road and so on and so forth. But then it was all this focus or defocus came from the measurement systems that we made for ourselves. Got it. Right? And that's the support that we need. Just having say ki itni, and it's not only outdoor. Say a TV person comes to me, ki mere paas itne GRPs mein de dunga, that is like water off duck's back.
Absolutely.
Right? Itni meri readership hai from a news paper perspective, that's water off duck's back. Itna traffic hai, ki all these are leading variables. But how do I, as a digital first business executive, make decisions that help me move ahead in an extremely competitive marketplace And that's the kind of measurement systems that I'm talking about. So how do we join hands together do that? That's my...
So hear you loud and clear, and I'm conscious of the time. Like I said, we're at the end of a long day. But just the point that a lot of the outdoor folks make is the fact that in a digital deficit world where most of us are consuming a lot of our time on screen, the few times we are out, which is when we're likely to consume more. You're out shopping or eating or dining or whatever. And that has the power to move consumer decision making the most, right? So maybe as marketers, some of us may be missing a trick in that process. And I'll just leave it at that before we can take a couple of audience questions. And I sense a lot of people have many questions. I think the two, if I would just kind of summarize some of the takes that we heard. I think one, for marketers, is saying that as a decision-making variable, it's dropping down the line, given the sheer weight of other spends on television, digital, and such like, outdoors kind of falling off, let's say the attention focus. The counter to that is how does one strategize and help the marketer take a more enlightened and sharper decisions. I think, Junaid, I heard you loud and clear. I think as media owners, you want a better case to represent the quality of your outdoor with an ultimate decision maker and possibly sell it in a manner that the agency may not be doing very good justice to. And Atul heard you loud and clear, saying that metrics are very, very important because I'm, in a sense, fighting a limited media budget with other, as of now, more measured mediums. Though I heard Junaid say that, and the reality is that a lot of digital numbers are flaky or dodgy, to say the least, but we'll keep that for another discussion. And two is about how to end up with a more creative or a more strategic manner of usage. Do we get more creative? I think we've got just a little time for maybe a couple of quick questions. I'm sure this discussion has stirred up a few thoughts and a few ideas. So if there's someone from the organizing team and anyone has a question, if you can stand up, state your case. I mean, which company you come from, and happy to take the answers.
Yes, sir. So we've got the questions online right now. They've been sifted through, and we've got Mr. Rajiv Raghunath, who's joining us right now to share the questions with you. So they're coming across to you right now. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome Rajiv Raghunath onto stage. 3 questions, and you're all going to choose the winning question.
Yeah, fantastic discussion that was on a topic that gets discussed in many quarters right through the year. And as expected, the number of questions raised was quite high, as many as 57. So the job of actually picking those questions was quite a tough one because many of them were overlaps, very similar sounding questions. So some of you may lose out, although you have touched upon the shortlisted question themes. However, let me get to the first question. This question is from Ritesh Vasudeva from Hindustan Publicity, and he says, while we had an enlightening discussion between the brand, agency, and the medium, have we forgotten the role of procurement at the client's end in commoditizing OOH? My question is to the brand that are we past the era when brands evaluate and close outdoor plans to qualify quality, on quality, creativity, innovation, etc., rather than the lowest rate criteria, and there is still hope for quality over quantity with respect to OOH?
Great question, Ritesh. If you can stand up and, yeah, Gaurav, please go for it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ritesh. And I think it's also maybe some of the things we discussed right now. I mean, the whole narrative or the focus that's going, and how deeply the CMO, the brand heads, or the media heads would get involved, and how much is left. That is definitely one thing. And I'll also talk about something which is often overlooked, but it's a big part by the procurement teams actually are the front facers. To buy TV or digital or even radio and all these things, maybe it's a little bit above what they have been trained for in terms of if the kind of TRP kaise karna hai, reach kya karna hai, and so on and so forth. They think they're very comfortable in buying outdoors, right? It becomes almost like, हाँ ये मैंने भी देखा हुआ है, I can easily do this. And sometimes it just comes down to that. So it's a 2-factor thing. I'm some of the things I spoke about that maybe the bandwidth is a little bit limited, I'm like in your decision-making process. And the second thing is the whole procurement's need to actually justify their salary. And this is the thing that I can really, really go to town. So I think sometimes that happens. And those are two biggest reasons why it happens.
Thank you. The second question comes from Sonika Yadav from Casher Drive. And the question is, do you agree that OOH is a commodity and DOOH, programmatic ads, content, creativity can only help in decommoditization?
Yeah, I can. See, wherever there is an audience, that medium cannot be a commodity. So there is no question that OOH or DOH or anything, any outdoor format can be a commodity. Only thing we have not been able to give the audience numbers in this medium. So it has been like marketer gets confused. When I'll give you a small example of one client here in Noida, sector 59. They spent huge money on advertising, print medium, television. So we had given them a plan for out of home because we thought if this kind can be converted to OH. So suppose I give them a plan of say 1 crore. So some marketer from within the organization, he said, let me try from other agency. So the other agency was given the plan. They said, I can do it for 90 lakh. Your marketer was excited. Then he said, I'll give it to third agency also. And told him, boss, I have already got a quote of 90 lakh. So the third agency said, no, I'll do it for 80 lakh. What is the problem? So this is this organization is driven by a owner. He said, boss, in lifetime, I will never do OH. So that brand never came on OH. You will never see that brand on OH. But in case of other marketers, what they do, it is so confusing. We really don't know what is the rate. And if I take a wrong decision, it is better to involve commercial or the procurement. Let them decide what is the rate, what is the justified rate of this plan, and then let's execute it. So that is the confusion. But actually, it is not a commodity. If clients partner with the agency, if they tell, say, Idea Cafe, boss, this year I want to spend 20 crore on OH. You give me a plan, these are my focus cities, and this is my TG. They will give a plan which will exceed the expectation of the client. Uske jagah pe if you tell ki boss, this month I am going to spend 2 crore. And when will be the next bus? They will not tell, so he'll be groping in the dark and he'll do something temporary. But if you give a consolidated budget, treat them as a partner, ki boss, give me the best solution. We have so much of value add available in this media that agency or the media owner himself can give lot of value to the client, provided there is a partnership feeling, not as somebody is there to loot to them.
Thank you so much for that. Question number 3 from Heyman Srivastava from FINA Private Limited. And the question is, considering the increasing integration of technology in the advertising industry, how can we strike a balance between data-driven programmatic approaches and the artistry of creative execution to ensure that the out-of-home buying remains a unique and valuable marketing channel, resisting the trap of commoditization?
You want to take a go at that? And then,
As I said before, the digitization is just a technology. How to use it is what will define its power. And how to use it comes from the understanding of the creative and the communication, viewpoint. If we start to understand that the technology brings the possibility to elaborate different objectives of the brand, then we can come up with creative solutions for it, like contextual advertising. If we have data powering the technology, then you can communicate to different people at different times in different environments. So that commoditization once it becomes unique proposition, it becomes an asset. It becomes more of it builds the brand. So I think it's just the understanding the art and the science of DOH. That is the key for it to be to not fall into a commodity trap.
Thank you. Thank you, Junaid. So now over to the panel to decide which is the question that should get the prize.
I think the third one, I like this one because that was very relevant. The third one, I think, which was pretty relevant to the times. So
Fantastic. So Hemant Shrivastava from FINA Private Limited, please come over and collect your prize.
Congratulations, Hemant. The final speaker question prize. So it's being brought onto stage right now. We request our moderator and panelists to kindly come forward to hold the check and hand it over to Hemant. We request Mr. Raghunath as well to join in the photograph. Center stage, please. Thank you so much to Alak Advertising and Publicity. This is a special moment. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. It is the final speaker question prize, but we promise you many more prizes. We've got our early bird prize with a MacBook Air waiting for one of you lucky people. We've got an Expo Lucky Draw prize. We've got the quintessential OH quiz prize, all of that in store. And then, of course, we've got the awards. But right now, for the closing remarks, as we head to the end, we've got a memento that each one of our panelists and moderator, we've got a beautiful memento for each one of you. For our moderator, please put your hands together for Mr. Lloyd Mathias. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on stage, for moderating, taking us through that session right now. We'd like to thank Mr. Gaurav Mehta. Put your hands together as we'd like to thank Mr. Atul Shrivastava. And put your hands together, make some noise for Mr. Junaid Shaikh. Put your hands together. All right, we love that. A group photograph, please. Can we please have a special... We really enjoy that. We've got panelists. We've heard, the word rock star for all our panelists right here. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, put your hands together. That was the final session.